Game week 25 is now an FPL double game week, and it's massively increased the Aston Villa appeal. I'm your thinking cap Benji, and in this one, I'm not only assessing Villa players, I also evaluate where Unai Emery assistant manager sits in the power curve. I recently constructed a new and improved chip strategy for my team that I'm going to be breaking down for all of you guys today. We're going to discuss why I'm switching pathways, and I'll further reveal several of my key transfer targets that you should really consider. Thinking cap activated. Just to start with a quick update on my team, how I've been getting on this season, and honestly, it's been a decent FPL campaign so far. I'm currently sitting inside the top 60k in the world, a great position to be in, where I feel as though I can really push on in that final part of the season. I am on a tiny red this week, but I've got triple Liverpool and triple Everton playing in the only remaining game week 24 fixture, so a green arrow is still a possibility. Now, my most recent upload was my triple captain special, which went out on the Thursday leading up to game week 24. On Friday, I woke up to massive news. The FA decided that the teams blanking in 29 because of the Carabao Cup final, those two teams would see their blank 29 fixtures moved forward into 25. 3 out of 4 of those semi-finalists were in Europe. Spurs and Liverpool, who both played each other in the semis, are both in Europe as well, which 100% confirmed double game week 25 for at least one rearranged fixture. In simple terms, what we basically found out was that just 30 hours before the 24 deadline, we found out that 25 would be 100% a double game week 2. Once I caught wind of that, I reassessed the potential pathways and finally settled on using my assistant manager in 24 instead of going for solid triple captain, because assistant manager lost 3 game weeks. It was the easiest way to maximize both double game week 24 and 25. Maximization you can't achieve with any of the other chips, because if you wanted to triple captain in 24 and then AM in 25, you'd be using 2 chips to cover the 2 doubles, compared to the AM guys like me using just 1 chip to cover both. If you used AM in 25, you'd miss out on an extra fixture because you obviously would have a double, then 2 singles. We had a double, then a single, so it's basically suboptimal if you do it that way, in my opinion. If you saved all of your chips and you didn't use one in 24, I don't think you actually maximized the double to its full potential. And with only 4 doubles happening this year, I believe it's very, very, very crucial not only to attack every double that comes our way, but also to pick the right chip to play in that double for your team. Honestly, it was really frustrating to have this happen because I spent hours and hours and hours on that triple captain video just for the meta to completely transform a day and a half later, changing, not even that, a day later, changing my team selection, my results, and my recommendations. I managed to get a few update posts out on all of my social platforms a few hours before the deadline shut, so I hope you managed to access that in time. But if you didn't and you still stuck with Salah TC, you're actually ahead of the guys who used AM like me, so it didn't actually work out too badly. So by now, I reckon you guys, you got the gist of what kind of happened and why my immediate chip strategy for double game week 24 did change. Obviously, you guys can see I went for David Moyes AM, and he's already kind of outperformed my expectations with that 4-0 win against Leicester, but of course, I'm hoping for even more FPL points in that Merseyside derby. So yeah, that's the first big change in my chip strategy. We'll get to the other big change very, very soon, but first, we'll take a look at my team selection and transfer plans for 25. I'm on a pretty expensive backline with 3 premium defenders. Really, really happy with Alisson and Trent, who will double again in 25, but there's some doubt around Trent, who went off injured in the Bournemouth game. Let's see if he's fit for Wolves and Everton. I've also hit the rotation button with Mykolenko dropping back to the bench, and Joachim Andersen gets a rare start at home to Nottingham Forest. Gabriel obviously not going anywhere, and then on my bench it's rotated Lewis Hall away to City, and my 2 Everton assets. Into midfield we go, and I've already made 1 confirmed transfer, moving Ismail Assar to Antoine Semenyo, completing an attacking double up for Bournemouth's good fixtures. I'm not usually one to make early moves, just in case of injury and new information, but Semenyo played last weekend in the FA Cup against Everton, and he came through all good after that, with no other games apart until Southampton, basically. I saw he was going up in price, and I just made that move because I am in a luxurious position to have a few free transfers. If you want the full debrief on the Bournemouth midfielders, go check out last episode and skip to the end. But for me, Semenyo's minutes are really strong. He also scored a pen in that cup game against Everton, which means he's likely behind Kluivert in the penalty pecking order. So I was just a little bit more willing to pay extra for Antoine over Adango Ouattara due to those factors. But I still think both are great options. Palmer, Salah, and Mbeumo complete my 5-man midfield. And up front, I'm sticking with Alexander Isak through the tougher run. And I've got the recently injured Nico Jackson. Newcastle's next 3 fixtures are stinky, and they do blank in 29, but I bought Isak at 8.3 million, guys. 8.3. He's 9.5 million now. And so if I wanted to buy him back later, I would be losing so much, basically. And Newcastle are now the most likely team to have 2 doubles remaining 30 onwards. That just makes him basically essential, assuming he stays fit. If he's having 2 more doubles this season, with the fixtures they've got 28, 30, 31, 32, he ain't going anywhere. But the same can't be said for Nicholas Jackson. And I guess that brings us nicely onto my Game Week 25 transfer pathways. The move I'm most likely to do is Moyes to Arnie's slot for Liverpool's double, because I believe the AM chip has to be prioritized in this situation. You can only use the AM once in a season, and you want to gain the most points possible across those 3 weeks. If Slot wins both games in 25, that's plus 12 points minimum, not including goal and clean sheet points. I think this double for Slot is much, much better than last game week. Wolves is a banker fixture, and Aston Villa's defensive injury crisis. I just struggle to see Slot underperforming in this double. For me to get to Slot, I need to sell one of my triple Liverpool. So in this case, it would be Alisson to Kepa, which is a low upside move. Goalkeeper transfers always are. And honestly, I hate myself for making them, but I might have to just bite my teeth with this one and make my second keeper transfer in the space of 2 game weeks, which doesn't really feel great. The final move in this scenario would be an injured Jackson to Watkins using my final free transfer. If Watkins is declared fit and Jackson is also declared injured against Brighton, the likelihood of this move would increase into the 50s, maybe mid 60s, maybe even low 70s, but I'll have to wait and see on that one. Aston Villa are one of the teams that blank in 29, and in my new chip strategy, which I'll show you in just a second, I'm navigating the 29 blank without using my free hit. So moving to a blanker now is very short term for my chip strategy. The alternative route is more risky, so we can take a look at that. So if Trent isn't fit for Wolves, or if I think he will get rotated in at least one of the next 3 game weeks, I'll most likely sell Trent to Bournemouth's Dean Howson. Very similar to the Kepa move, but I'm getting a little bit more upside. I'm getting way more cash that enables Slot and Heung-min Son, who I am very interested in. Not only is Spurs' fixture spacing excellent in 25 and 26 because there's no midweeks, it's a full week break, but they're also out of both cup competitions and they have an injury crisis in the attack, so Son's minutes have been good. His output has been creeping up ever so slightly in the league, and he's played 90 minutes in 3 consecutive league fixtures. The only other time he did that this season was at the very start from game weeks 1 to 5. So I think his minutes are better, his fitness is better, his form is on a slight uptick, and Spurs' fixtures are getting less congested. And I do think Son is a differential captaincy option in 26 away to Ipswich when Palmer plays Villa, Isak plays Forest at home, Salah has Man City. So he does offer a little bit of a differential captaincy in that week. Spurs will also play in 29, so on my strategy, he does make sense, albeit it is away to Fulham. For me, though, I do think Son has dropped off a little bit this season. I think he's lost a yard of pace. I think he's a little bit less clinical, but I still think, his numbers are really good in terms of what he's putting up XGXA, and his baseline is extremely high. It's been higher than it has been in a lot of the previous seasons, and that's due to the new bonus changes. I also think Son's gone a little bit more creative. And without Solanke, I think Son does have a little bit of additional value just because that whole attack is more interchangeable. If you also hold Son post game week 30, he has Southampton in a week where other premiums have tougher fixtures. So that's another captaincy option if you hold him that long. But obviously you could do a move to Foden at that point, whatever you want. Son, I do think he has a medium-term lifespan in the power curve. He's a serious differential captaincy shout in at least 2 of upcoming game weeks. And he plays in the blank, so there's a lot of positives, but I'm just not sure I'm ready to sell Brian Mbeumo. I've owned Brian since game week 6 on my wildcard, and selling him before West Ham and Leicester doesn't feel right in my gut. But overall, I think you guys, my key moves, my skeleton pathway. I'm really likely to do Arnie Slot in out for David Moyes. And that is really my priority, meaning one of my double Liverpool defense, will go this week. I'm just not sure on either one, which one to kind of sell, and I'm not sure on if I want any of those two premiums attackers that I was talking about in Watkins or Son. What do you guys think I should do with my free transfers this week? Let me know in the comment section. The new and improved chip strat I was talking about has two possible pathways, but first, let's talk about the big change I'm making, and that is I'm sacrificing myself a little bit in game week 29 during the blank. I will have 11 players in that week, and I will not be free hitting in 29 because, okay, for sure, free hit 29ers will gain a few points on me, but because of the new information we've received on the FA Cup, who's progressed on the blank in 34, it's made it extremely difficult to maximize your bench boost in 33 without a free hit in 34. Why? Well, that's because all of the teams projected to double in 33 will likely blank in 34. Only Crystal Palace double in 33 and also have a fixture in 34. But guess what that fixture is? Arsenal away. So basically, you're going to be navigating minimum 5 players. You're going to be navigating minimum 5 players who will blank for your team in 33, and you'd need to be starting a triple up on Palace away to Arsenal in 34 when 50% of engaged managers will be free hitting. When 50% will have a perfect team, you're going to have triple Palace against Arsenal away on your non-free hit. It's just not workable. So basically, if you don't free hit in 34, you're sacrificing in the 33 double by going for players. You have to go for players who help you in the blank. It's impossible to go all out in the double and then survive in 34. You're also going to be compromised in 34 because free hitters will have a perfect team without using even a single free transfer on that blank. They're going to come out of the blank with more flexibility than those of you who don't free hit, and they'll be able to target players. A free hit 29 person just won't be able to at the crunch time in this FPL season. Big shout out to FPL Stock, FPL Cayman, and FPL Kanji. They do a great weekly podcast called FPL Roundtable. They pointed out some of these things out to me a few days ago, and I realized without a free hit in 34, you're not optimal in 33. You're not optimal in the blank in 34. And your free transfer balance is guaranteed to be way weaker than the people using free hit 34, 35 onwards for the last 4 weeks of the season, which means you can't really attack the final few game weeks to the full. 29, it won't hurt as bad as the blank in 34. Personally, I will be benching 3 players, Hall, Isak, and Salah. Everybody else will play for me. If you're someone who literally really just you can't switch, you got too many blankers in 29, you can't switch to 34 free hit, then I'd advise saving your wild card for either 34 or 35 because you're gonna find it really, really, really tough to navigate the biggest blank of the season with just free transfers and no chips and then still find yourself to be okay onwards. It's not gonna happen. So save your wild card if you're looking at 29 strategy. Game week 36 is projected to be quite a small double with only 1 to 2 teams. Newcastle highly likely to double in 33 and 36, which is what makes Isak so essential. Now, obviously, I didn't use my TC on Salah and I won't be able to use it this week, but I'm sure as you can tell with the images, I'm looking at Erling Haaland. If City get that double of Southampton and Villa in 36, very, very good opportunity for me. Isak got a decent double then as well. He could double with Ipswich, so triple cap is locked in for one of the final weeks of the season. The first chip pathway at the top involves wildcard in game week 35. The bottom one involves using wildcard in 31 or 32 whenever we know when the confirmed 33 double fixtures are, which should be either 31 or 32. We'll know in 31 or 32. I'm leaning towards wildcard 34 more because I can optimize my bench boost in 33 using free transfers. If I can optimize it with just frees, I'll be able to go super, super hard in 35 wildcard, then triple captain 36, and then I'll be able to attack 37. I'll be able to, load up on Arsenal in 38. I'll be able to do a lot of things that the majority of the player base won't be able to do. I'll have a fresh team ready for the 36 double, and in this chip strategy, I'm covered in all of the big weeks except for 29, and if there's one week I'm going to sacrifice, it's going to be in 29 because I can get to 11 players. The chance of getting to 11 without hits in game week 34 is really, really small because it's such a big blank. Now, we've covered my new chip strategy. Let's discuss assistant manager in game week 25 through to game week 27 because I know a few of you will be using AM this week, and if you are getting any manager I reckon it should be Arnie Slot. Wolves at home is an absolute banker fixture, and the current state of Villa's defense makes it really hard for me to visualize Emery even getting a draw at Villa Park. I don't mind if you go for a table bonus. I think that's fine. I'm not a guy saying, oh, you have to go safe, but there's significant factors at play that make Emery a dangerous AM, a risky AM option. Both of his starting center backs, Pau Torres and Konza, are injured and will be out for both fixtures in the double. One of the reasons I was really positive about Moyes was because of the solidarity of Everton's defense. I felt as though they could genuinely get something against Liverpool, whereas I don't see the same situation for Emery. I wouldn't be shocked if Villa dropped points against Ipswich. I wouldn't be shocked with that defense. So for me, Emery AM is definitely not thinking cap approved. Some of you might look at a Marco Silva this week for table bonus versus Forest, maybe a cheeky Iriola away to Southampton, but realistically, are you maximizing the double if you don't go for a doubling coach? I don't think so, which is why Slot is by far my favorite AM. If you can't get to Slot, or if you just got a really good feeling about Villa and Emery, then by all means, go for it. Just don't use your AM on a single game week coach at least. Please get the extra fixture. Now in game week 26, things get very, very interesting because there's no double in 26. The fixtures aren't the cleanest set of games for an AM. I am planning to move off Slot in 26, but you can keep him for Man City away. I understand it isn't the best fixture, but he also could just win that, get 9 points, and you're chilling, right? But I personally have a different strategy. Arsenal have 3 fit attackers, so I'm not really super trusting in Super Mick Arteta right now, even though it is West Ham, and West Ham got a result in that exact fixture last season. I think it was a 2-2 at Emirates, so I don't think that's a smooth sailor. Hertzeller is a safe option, or looks like a safe option, but Brighton have dropped points multiple times against promoted teams this season, so it's not a banker. You could chase table bonus with Van Nistelrooy at home to Brentford. That's the only realistic table bonus game I really see. Pereira and Wolves is also there, but I'm not targeting Bournemouth away. That is a very difficult fixture. But honestly, my plan has me going to Big Ange. Big fucking Ange for Ipswich away. Postecoglou said several Spurs players, including Van de Ven, will return to full team training this week and across this week into next week, which would be just before Ipswich. They don't have European fixtures until game week 27. Their first leg of their Europa knockout tie is between game week 27 and 28. So they don't have cup fixtures, they don't have European fixtures in the meantime. That's why I really like Big Ange. He should have the squad back, should be a bit of bounce. And we've already seen, like Southampton away this season, they can absolutely smash a promoted side away from home. And he is my current favorite option. I think sticking with Slot is also viable, as I had said. I like Van Nistelrooy if you're looking at table bonus, but it's just not for me. And if you look at AM27, once again, it's not the best set of fixtures. There's only 2 real managers I see as options. Maresca, Southampton at home, which is more of the banker fixture if you're not looking to chase. But Big Ange does offer table bonus at home to Man City, which is my favorite if you're looking for an upside AM. The others, I probably wouldn't consider. Are Aston Villa assets viable? That seems to be the big question this week, with many managers avoiding, some considering, and a handful already tripled up. I've got 2 categories: meta, which means approved, most effective, through all of my various checks, and then we've got the mid category, which kind of speaks for itself. Although Watkins remains a doubt for Ipswich, if we get the green light on his availability, I think 2 starts is pretty likely. On pens, most of the chance creation goes to him. The team funnels big chances to their big man, and he is the big man, by far my favorite Villa player for this double. But close behind is definitely Morgan Rogers, who's the most likely to get both starts in good minutes. He also scored against Ipswich in the reverse fixture this season, and Morgs has been Emery's second most productive attacker. I do think Rodgers is a little bit more secure in terms of long-term minutes in the Prem, because Watkins is competing with Mallon, and Mallon isn't registered for Champions League. He's the backup number 9. Because he can't play in the UCL, I think Emery still gives him decent minutes in the league this season, which isn't good if you want to hold Watkins longer term. Rodgers is an extremely durable asset. He's played almost 50 games in the Championship previously in his career, and Emery's more willing to flog him in a sense, whereas Watkins, he's been protecting all campaign. Still, I think Villa don't have that amazing of a fixture run, and consistent GA delivery is always harder to maintain when you're playing more minutes, and I think Rodgers will frustrate at times. If you did want a piece of that Villa attack and you can't afford Watkins, I'd go for Rodgers. I've already discussed Emery AM, top 3 Villa asset for sure, but for the double, but I would be prioritizing Arnie Slot by all means. The final player in meta is Emi Martinez, and that's because goalkeepers have a really high floor in double game weeks. Even if he bottles the clean sheet in both, he could rack up 3 to 4 save points, you know, through against Liverpool, and then 2 points in the Ipswich game, and you're sitting on a 5 or 6 pointer for Martinez, which is okay. But if you want him, make sure he fits in with your chip strategy, because Villa blank in 29. I wouldn't be considering any of the Villa defenders. Just quickly on Malin, if we do get bad news about Watkins' fitness, Malin is a 5.5 million midfielder, likely to start 2 out of 2 games for Aston Villa in a double game week, with one of them being a promoted team. So it's decent, it's just not good long term. He's not reliable, he's not secure, and I expect all 3 of the Bournemouth midfielders to beat him easily long term. Let's have a discussion about Marcus Rashford, because he did look good in the short stint he got against Spurs. Not only has Marcus got a very good record against Liverpool, but he also scored away to Ipswich this season, and he has always maintained a very decent record against promoted sides throughout his career. The real issue with a Rashi punt, again, is the minutes and the fact that Jacob Ramsey, who's his competition on the left wing, he's picked up a little bit of form recently from what my Villa correspondent has told me, and it'll be hard to keep him out of the team right now. Rashi also doesn't guarantee you any starts in any of the games in the double, after the double, and he blanks in 29, which makes it very, very difficult for me to recommend him. So he'll stay in mid for now, but if Villa do double again this season, which is very likely, I do expect Rashi to be inside the power curve. We're finishing up with a sleeper selection, by the way, which has been on fire. We recommended Tarkowski for a 1 week punt. He already delivered 10 points against Leicester, and DA did some points. Allison just kept it clean. Do not sleep on our recommendations, because they deliver points, and I've got a very, very, very high expectation for this week's SS, and that's Arsenal's Ethan Nwaneri. Sky Sports were reporting today that Kai Havertz has just torn his hamstring in Dubai and is likely out for the rest of the season. Nwaneri is absolutely nailed to start, because guess what? Arteta has no other options. That's what happens if you don't spend in January. He's got 3 fit attackers, Sterling, Nwaneri, and Leandro Trossard. Of course, the drawback is that Arsenal's attack will see a dip in goals, a dip in quality, and a dip in form due to the lack of options, but I still rate them as a team. And at 4.5 million, Nwaneri's the cheapest midfielder in the game on set pieces, and we know how deadly Arsenal set pieces are. They've accumulated the most set piece XG this season with 11.9, and to be fair to Arteta, they've currently got the second highest goal tally in the league with 49 scored so far. Definitely nowhere near the best open play attack if you're looking at XG, but I expect Arsenal to score goals in the next 2, and Nwaneri scored 3 from 3 league starts. He's young, but I think he's more than capable of delivering GA in a very, very injury-ridden Arsenal, and with a share of the corners for the set piece, it's really good. He's a fantastic budget option, especially because he plays in 29 versus Chelsea at home. Nobody owns him. 0.7% selected in the entire game, so getting dirt cheap differential with minutes and a share of set pieces, playing for a top 8 attack and a top 2 defense, so you get little added clean sheet points. Definitely someone I'm personally considering down the line if I want a Haaland, if I want a Foden, if I want a Foden plus Son. He enables some very powerful team structures. Saka's projected to return late March, early April, which is around 33, 34, 35-ish, so his lifespan, Nwaneri's lifespan in the power curve, is long enough for him to be a genuine 8th attacker. I'm not saying he's the guy you need to go on and get. You need to take a chance on him right now this week. If you need someone like Nwaneri, then go for it, but he's just one of those guys I reckon please add him to the memory bank, because in a month or 2, you might need a cheap budget midfielder, and he's by far the best one in the game right now. If you're enjoying this content, drop a like, hit subscribe, and I'll speak to you in the next one. Peace.